I'm getting married in October. But that's actually not what I'm here to talk about today. I want to talk about the time that my soon-to-be wife caught a case of flesh-eating bacteria when she was just 9 years old, just by swimming in a river in North Carolina. She was at a summer camp, but here's how it happened. In North Carolina, it's all about pork. There are staggeringly large industrial pork farms. I believe there are actually almost as many pigs in North Carolina as there are humans. And all those pigs, they poop. They produce waste. They pee, and when they're slaughtered, there's blood and waste related to that. And all of that waste can't be disposed of on such a large scale, so they put it in these pits, just open air pits on the farm. Unfortunately, there was a hurricane that year in 1999, and a lot of the pits got flooded. And so the river, the Neuse River, was horribly contaminated, and she got a really serious case of flesh-eating bacteria from it. So this issue sort of hits close to home for us. Even in times of good weather, though, those pits are, it has to go somewhere. So what they do is they mist it into the air to fertilize the nearby fields, but it drifts all over the place. And the result is a situation that Dr. Steve Wing of UNC Chapel Hill refers to as the eastern part of North Carolina is covered in poop. He actually uses a slightly less appropriate word. But that's what's going on down there. In Colorado, it's more cows, and with cows the issue is methane. Cows actually produce more methane than the automobile industry. But for any industrial style farming, you're going to have similar scale related issues. Obviously we can't all be farmers. The development of agriculture was essential to the growth of civilization. If we all had to spend our time growing our food and raising our own livestock, we couldn't work as lawyers or welders or whatever. That said, the industrial scale has gotten out of control, and making some changes in the way that you shop to force the tide back towards smaller local farming has just multitudinous benefits that I want to discuss today. You may be asking yourself, who is this guy to tell me how to spend my money at the grocery store? I am not an economist. I am not an agricultural scientist. I have participated in 3 community supported agricultural programs, CSAs, in 2 different states, in Virginia and Colorado. I've worked on a small CSA participating berry farm in Virginia, and I have done some research on the topic that I hope will show through here today. So we want to discuss what I think are the threefold benefits of supporting smaller local farming. It's benefits to the environment, benefits to the economy, and benefits to your health. Obviously, giant open pits of blood and excrement are not good for the environment. And as we said, they're really similar scale-related issues for all industrial farming. As far as the economy, more smaller local means that more people are profiting and the money's staying in the community. And actually, we're going to find that food produced locally tends to be healthier for you in a number of ways. So let's talk some more about these giant open pits of blood and excrement. Generally speaking, factory farming is horrible for the environment. National Geographic says in the same article referencing the Neuse River issue that even in times of good weather, this misting and these pits really result in overspraying and runoff which gets into the water supply, creates algae, chokes out local fish populations. It just changes the nature of the local ecology. A similar issue, the overspray is a big problem in agriculture, industrial agriculture as well. The biggest one you hear is about dicamba, basically Roundup. And big industrial farmers are using seeds that are resistant to this chemical, and then they can spray as much of it as they want. But that spray drifts onto neighboring fields, and essentially, if you don't participate in their industrial seed program, their fertilizers and their pesticides are going to choke out your crops. It's leaving the Midwest in a really terrible situation. People are getting in fist fights, and even murders are occurring along farm borders because of this. Marketplace's Scott Tang says that American farmers are engaged in a toxic chemical arms race against ever-adaptive weeds because of this over-reliance on pesticides. That's just something that you don't see in smaller local farms. Even the ones that do choose to use those same chemicals, and less of them will. The scale results in less overspray, less issues with runoff inherently. You can name an agricultural industry, and there's a problem that goes back to scale. Again, not all small local farms are going to use best practices. Some of them will use the exact same chemicals, but things like leaching and overspray will be much less of an issue on a smaller farm. And if we're talking about livestock rather than produce, obviously a smaller operation where the animals are more spread out, the waste problem is much less significant. You don't have to have these giant pits that never used to happen before the scale of the farming went up so much. In the long term, all of these environmental effects also end up having economic effects. There's costs associated with this much pollution, and with the negative health associated with, things like algae and overspray and runoff, as well as like breathing methane. There are also other ways, though, that switching away from industrial farming can be very good for the economy. These rural areas where lots of these industrial farms are, there's not a lot of other opportunities. So to break up the big farms and create an opportunity for local citizens to be small business owners of smaller farms, obviously that's going to create a great job opportunity for that business owner, but he will then also be able to hire other local people, pay a better wage, generally speaking, than a factory operation will. And that money, those profits, will stay in that community rather than being shipped off to wherever the corporation is centered. Not only is this better for your wallet, it's also better for you. Like I said, I have a fair bit of experience with community-supported agriculture. I worked on a farm that participated in one, and I've purchased produce from 3 different ones. That the idea is that you pay upfront to be a member in this community agriculture program, and the local farms will use that money to grow food and provide you with what's in season and fresh. So it sort of forces a variety into your diet that you wouldn't get if you were able to just go to the grocery store and buy broccoli and asparagus all year round, assuming that's what you like. That's what I would buy. If we're talking about meat, factory farmed meat, generally speaking, doesn't have much room to move, and is fed a grain-based diet, and this results in generally a different type of fat in that meat than a farm free-range animal that is given a mostly grass-based diet and allowed to move around. According to the Mayo Clinic, beef raised in this way, for example, has healthier fatty acids, and in particular some really special, I guess, fatty acids that are good for heart health. Moreover, beef in particular, that it's able to move around and eat grass its whole life develops a different type of fat, in that it's intramuscular fat. The fat's dispersed through the meat better, which makes it taste way better. So that's really good too. So let's review the benefits of supporting local agriculture, and why you should make that shift in your shopping. As we've talked about, it is much better for the environment. If there were no giant industrial style pork farms in North Carolina, my girlfriend would have never, almost lost her leg when she was 9 years old to a flesh-eating bacteria. It almost sounds unbelievable just to say it, but that's the things that people that live near these industrial type farms have to deal with every day. She actually told a story where they saw, I think a year or two later, they swear they saw a whole pig carcass floating down the river, and there hadn't even been a hurricane recently. But anyway, it is also much better for the local economy. These rural communities where the big industrial farms tend to be located could really benefit from having the opportunities that smaller farms would present to the citizens. And finally, it's better for you. The produce is going to force more variety into your diet, more variety into your diet, and the meat's going to have better fats, and those fats are going to taste better. So at the end of the day, we should all move as much of our spending as possible to local farming and away from industrial farming.